Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a great afternoon. So let me get my shared screen up here for you guys and then give you guys just a brief introduction about myself. So I am a consultant who's been in doing e-commerce for about 5 years. I've worked with clients who've been in every level of e-commerce. So there's people who are, just getting started. There are people who are looking to maybe pivot their business into e-commerce. They're looking to add e-commerce as a part of their business function, and then there are those who are looking to fully onboard with e-commerce and make a shift there. So to grow their operations on that end. So in regards to that, what this presentation will cover is pretty much just going over the different e-commerce websites that are out there, the different marketplaces and platforms. There'll be sites that are online marketplaces. There'll be sites that are companies that do retail and look for suppliers and vendors, and there's sites that are allowing for self-hosting. You don't really need in e-commerce that you don't need to be exclusive to any of these. I have a lot of clients who are doing all three of them at once. There's a lot of different strategies you can do with e-commerce. It all kind of comes down to what your plans are and how much you want to invest in that, and where you want to take your business on e-commerce. So basically, let's get started with the first part. So e-commerce, electronic commerce, basically goods and services on the website, online. There's business to business, business to consumer. If you are a producer or a manufacturer, there's also distributor to consumer and distributor to business. These are basically people who skip the middleman and go straight for online. So there's options like that. Popular examples are Amazon, Home Depot, Walmart, eBay. I'm going to go over all of these different marketplaces. There are now common requirements as e-commerce has become more standardized over the years. In the past, there was a lot of variability between the marketplaces. Everybody had their own rules, and you kind of had to try to figure out what they were and match it to them. But now everybody's starting to adopt common requirements and make these as part of their standardized process. So some of the common requirements I noted here. Again, this isn't totally universal because a lot of the marketplace, like I said, can have their own rules and can have their own ways of processing this, and they do have guides and resources for that. But generally speaking, if you are going to go into e-commerce, it always helps to have consideration for these. So high quality product content obviously is most vital because that's how people are going to be shopping for your products. They need, since they're not able to see it in the store, and not every product can have a sample sent to customers. The images are vital, titles are vital, and the descriptions are important for helping the customers understand what the product is, if it's what they're looking for, and it has the added benefit of increasing your product's visibility online, because anything you put for your product on the internet has a search engine value, whether it's inside the search engine of the marketplace you're using, or just overall online when someone's searching products on Google or any of the other search engines. This GS1 UPC barcode has become more standard over the years, especially with Amazon, who has now started making it a mandatory requirement. These are basically UPCs are the barcodes that you can scan on products. I recommend for people who are getting into e-commerce to take a look at that and consider it, because a lot of marketplaces now require that you have a GS1 set up UPC barcodes. GS1 is the company that provides these barcodes. There are exemptions on marketplaces, and you are free to check in on that. Some categories, obviously, certain products you can't have barcodes on them. Maybe they're custom made, maybe they're made to order, maybe they're just parts that are put together to make a final product. Maybe it's some kind of modular situation. So you can look into those, but generally speaking, UPCs have become a standard requirement across the online marketplaces, because both for avoiding counterfeit issues, and just so they can get that guarantee that this product belongs to this seller. It has become a requirement. The section about consistent inventory, that's actually because as I go through these marketplaces, one thing that's a constant across them is that the longer you have your product available in your inventory and like you're avoiding situations where you're out of stock, you'll maintain your product's ranking. And ranking is vital on all the marketplaces because that's pretty much how you compete for that digital shelf space, basically. So whenever you go to like let's say a website like Amazon and or Home Depot and you're searching a product, the algorithms they use on these websites uses a lot of different factors, and one of them tends to be inventory. So inventory planning is vital to avoid any situation where you might start losing ranking and visibility. So it's always good to keep that in mind. Another thing about e-commerce, especially in recent times, is unlike a retail store or a business set up physically in a like a regional or local area, is that the competition is pretty much national. There's just a whole saturation of people that you are going to be competing with. These are these can be companies that are just people who are selling on the side. These can be people who are in the business. There can even be manufacturers. I mean, it depends on the category and the product. So the main thing that works here is advertising and marketing. So it's wise to set a budget. It's not a situation where whoever spends the most wins. I have clients, and one of my clients who's allowing me to use their name is called Ottoman Sun. They sell home decor products. They have a very efficient budget for their advertising. They don't spend excessive amounts, but it's a matter of finding the keywords to use that work for you and then just building up from there. So you don't need a massive budget, but it's always good to have a budget that you will be putting into marketing. You can think of it as basically an overhead and the cost of doing business. So what rent might be and utilities might be for a physical location, marketing and advertising are what are for e-commerce, because it's pretty much the only way to really bring your products forward. In the beginning, it might not be immediately necessary because new products tend to have a bit of an advantage in the algorithms. But once you want to grow that momentum, it becomes important because otherwise you'll just be one of many among a large pool of people and suppliers. And the final thing is it's put towards the end too because it's not extremely vital, but it's usually good practice to have a company website. You can set up a website on anything simple, like a Wix website or any of those services that allow you to easily set up a website. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't even need to be self-hosting, though. If you do want to have a website where you can also sell from, I am going to go over those self-hosting websites here as well. But the reason for this is that one, it's good practice because it provides your brand some visibility. Two is because it can help maybe have people find your products and give you a bit of that search engine optimization benefit, and then you can guide them to like your e-commerce website, or if they want to buy from your website too, that is an option you would give them. And then three is that a lot of partners that you want to start business with outside of companies like Amazon, eBay, if you plan to move up the ladder into becoming a supplier or working with one of the major retailers, they always ask for a website to see your product. So it's basically, you can think of it as a showcase. And since you have full control over how you can design your website, you can put the effort in there just to make it as nice and polished as possible because it'll be what you show off to the online partners to kind of attract them to your business. So as we move forward, so these are the type of platforms that I've mentioned. Before we get into these, actually, I will note that there's also the business of drop shipping. It is part of e-commerce, but as part of this presentation, it won't necessarily be something I drill into too deep because when it comes to drop shipping, The main concern there is that it's not necessarily a long-term business per se. Your drop shippers maintain their businesses usually by always finding new products to drop ship, and drop shipping is the art of basically it's a business of you might not have the product, but you have the product somewhere else at a price, and you list that under another site, and when someone makes the purchase, you purchase from that other site and then put their shipping address in. A lot of people do get their start in e-commerce that way, or make it a side business. But the point of this presentation is more for people for if you're looking to set up a long-term business on e-commerce. So I won't get into drop shipping too much. It'll mostly be focused on these three types of platforms and how your business will proceed on them. So self-hosting is the one where I mentioned, where you set up a website, you sell from your own website. You control everything, the settings, the products. You have full design, marketing powers. You are gonna. The main issue with these is that you don't have customer traffic when you start, because you're a new website. But the benefit here is if you're selling certain types of products, and maybe you want to have you don't want to deal with anything extra that the marketplace or the supplier operations have. You just want to be able to run your business your way, have full control over everything, and maybe make it a slow growth, or maybe make it a part of your retail business. Self-hosting works well with companies that already have ongoing business operations on the physical end, because you're able to use the income you have from the physical end to maintain and help make the self-hosting a secondary part that you can invest in and slowly grow. And it has a benefit, of course, to make maybe bringing in traffic to your physical location as well, depending on the type of advertising you do. So it is an option. It gives full control. Obviously, you do basically build up from scratch, so that's the main issue, and it takes a lot more effort and time and investment to build it up. But if it fits your strategy, and if it's something that will help you pivot into e-commerce in a way that will on your time, basically, because you're not necessarily going to be competing inside of a marketplace, but competing in the entire internet, but it's your business, you're putting your focus into it. That's an option. Marketplace is the one that everybody is familiar with, because Amazon, eBay are marketplaces, and it's where a lot of customers go to shop from. So marketplaces are just that. Amazon and eBay, where they act as the site that lets you sell your products as a third party seller. That's what you're called if you're listing your products, but you're responsible for the products. You're a third-party seller. Um, these websites are another type of strategy where maybe you just want to put products on. You don't want to deal with making a website. You want a website that already has traffic, that already has a platform, that has a system in place. All you need to do is put it in there, fill out their templates. They have everything standardized for opening items, and then just hop in there, put it in, put the price in, and then list it. And then people, as the traffic comes in, you just sell. The benefit here is that these marketplaces have everything you need: utilities, plugins, everything. The shipping systems are there, the advertising systems are there, the reviews system is there. You don't have to do anything extra. Everything is there. You just have to sell the products, add the products, and invest in the products. Um, there are different variations to marketplaces depending on the marketplace. Some, like eBay, give auctions. Some, like Amazon, they have that FBA program, which is where you send your products to their warehouse and then they ship for you. And on the website, you will see it says sold by, and then your company name, and then shipped by or fulfilled by Amazon, which is where Amazon is shipping it from their warehouse. These all have different advantages to them. Obviously, for the FBA, if anyone's a Prime member, you get that guaranteed 2-day delivery. So there's some features in these marketplaces that you can consider. It all depends on the type of products you're selling and the strategy you're going to be pursuing. And then the third one is the supplier level. Now, this one is a bit more effort. This is essentially a full business pivot into e-commerce. Suppliers are essentially companies that set up with the different marketplaces or retailers, and then they provide the retailer a wholesale cost on their products and then ship it to them either to their warehouse, or if that retailer wants you to drop ship to their customers. They'll send you their customers' information whenever an order comes in. A lot of the times they do offer paid shipping, so the retailer pays the shipping, and you're just responsible for shipping the products. This level tends to require warehousing space because you do need the products in a warehouse, and this one requires approval and verification because the retailer is essentially deciding to make you a partner of their company to sell products, and in return they make money off of that too because they sell at they put a markup on it and they sell at whatever their cost they want to put on the listing, and you sell to them at wholesale, and whatever is in between is their profit, and whatever you get as the wholesale cost is your profit. The advantage of this one is it's actually a bit more streamlined, and because you're not selling to customers, you're selling to the retailer. So you have one point of contact to work with. It does require a bit more of an investment, and these days the retailers, since they've been building up the last few years with the different partners they're bringing in, they usually look for people who can you can make it into the like they look for whoever can bring in different products to their market. I actually see a question here in the chat. I did say that questions will be at the end, but this is a good point here. When it comes to taxes, each when it comes to taxes, obviously self-hosted, you are going to be responsible for the tax, and right in that distribution location. There are the plugins because the payments are still technically handled by whichever service you're using. They'll have the options there to fill out, the information so that the taxes are charged correctly. But for self-hosting, you're responsible for managing to make sure that that information is set properly. For marketplaces, a bit simpler because marketplaces, they'll do it automatically when the transaction process is going because you'll already give them your business information. So because they have your business information, they'll make those arrangements for you. And on the supplier side, this one is you're selling as a wholesaler or a distributor to the retailer. So this one is more it's not necessarily the same as a sales tax situation because you're essentially doing business to business. So your company is selling to another retailer. You're not necessarily selling to the customers. And on that end, they do have their own finance department because the retailer's finance department, who will, when they're making the contracts, everything will be noted on there. So these are the three types. There are different These are different venues. You're not limited to one of these. Like I said, I do have clients who all have all three of them. It is obviously something that they have to put effort into because it does require a team to manage them separately. But like I said, it's e-commerce is very flexible. You have a lot of different features, little different options, different marketplaces, different retailers. It all comes down to what you want to do and what you're selling. So let's move on to that. Obviously, the first one we start with is Amazon. That's because I call them essentially the gatekeepers of e-commerce because almost every customer will flow through Amazon when they want to shop online. It's simply because everybody knows that Amazon is where you buy stuff. So it just the marketing has built up to that point. So people always go to Amazon when they want to shop. Even when they're in the store, they pull out their phones and they search the item to see if they can get it cheaper on Amazon than the physical stores. So because of that, they are essentially the largest online e-commerce site, and they do offer a wide assortment of options. They are both a marketplace and they also offer a supplier level business operation as well. So another thing Amazon also does is B2C and B2B. They actually do have a separate B2B page. So whenever a customer signs up as a business account, they'll actually see slightly different information than what a normal customer will see. They'll see things like this bulk discounts, and they might get some extra. Amazon might offer them some extra stuff that they don't offer normal customers. So Amazon has built that into their site, and that is an option you have. So you can actually, with the marketplace account, you can actually have items being sold as B2C and B2B. It is something that Amazon now allows for. How these marketplaces tend to work is that when you set up as a seller, they give you an option to type of account. The type of account determines the features that you have access to. Amazon has individual and professional. Individual has a cheaper monthly fee, but there are limits to how many items you can open, and they tend to have a bit more fees. Professional is they have that fixed monthly fee that you pay, and then you have access to their full platform. And then outside of that monthly fee is a referral fee. Referral fees come down to basically depends on the category, but what happens is that they charge the way the marketplaces make their money is that they charge a percentage of your listing price as how much money they take. So if you're selling something for $100, the average on Amazon for the listing price, listing fee is about 15%. So Amazon, if you sell something for $100, Amazon will take $15 and you keep the rest as the payment. And this is for regular fulfillment. So you're shipping, you're selling. So they just take their fee and that's it for them. If you do FBA, which is their fulfillment by Amazon, where you send bulk items to their fulfillment centers in order for them to ship to customers as they order, FBA has its own fees. It will charge you, you do have to pay the shipping to their fulfillment center, and then they charge you fees on handling and pick pack. It always depends on the category, it depends on the size of the packages. So they do have some extra fees built into that. But in return for FBA, Amazon handles the shipping, Amazon handles the customer service, and the returns as well. So the benefit here is not only do they take care of those three things, they also allow your listing a bit more visibility because now customers who say like they want to see only items that they can purchase as a Prime subscriber for the 2-day delivery, if they click that filter, your item will show up because fulfillment by Amazon offers that. If you don't have that, you can if you provide in your regular marketplace, your non-FBA one, you do have an option to offer no, free shipping, but it falls into a separate filter. So if someone just clicks on like Prime delivery, you will fall out of that filter. You will fall out of the search results because only items that are FBA and guaranteed as 2-day delivery by Amazon will show up. So that's a major advantage, but obviously there are costs, so you'll need to do the analysis for that. And in fact, I do have a source that tends to work really well for checking on that. So, okay, so this is just a brief of Amazon. You can see the site here, top e-commerce site, multiple customers. They have these 3 types here. Seller Central is their marketplace platform. Fulfilled by Amazon is a module inside of Seller Central that you have access to. And Vendor Central is their supplier level. That one is the one that I mentioned where they do, you sell to Amazon, basically. They're your customer, not the customer being purchased. So I have some links here. So when you guys receive this this copy of this webinar, these links will take you to some of the different information to help you make your decisions and make your strategy. These calculator is provided by Amazon, so it's something they created. This one is a bit simple because it just gives you a rough idea of profit margin, and category referral fees are on this website as well. So if you scroll down from that link, you will see the different options you have, the different categories and the different fees they charge for it, as well as any rules, because there are some categories that you actually need permission to sell in and you need to apply to sell on that. The image screenshot you see here is basically what the Seller Central platform looks like. You will see here that the you have that top bar with the different options. This is a professional account. The information you see here is what the professional account has. The individual account will see the same, but when you go into these tabs, some things might be missing or some things will have extra charges. The way that this works, though, is that everything you need is on that dashboard, and then you can use that dashboard to track everything. You have your orders there, payment summary there, Amazon Business there. So it's a really nice platform. Amazon is pretty on par with giving you, a full picture of your business from that one page. So I have the beginner's guide here, which essentially kind of gives you a breakdown of how to start selling on Amazon, how to open an account, and it gives you a brief idea of how the Amazon ecosystem is, their marketplace basically. I did put that note here because if you search for this, you will find some older. So Amazon Seller also has a forum where sellers can communicate with each other, share experiences, and also try to get some support. So you will find some older ones that mention that GS1 UPCs are not required, but in recent times they are actually required, because if you don't use a GS1 UPC and you get one of those there's a lot of barcodes out there you can buy individually that aren't necessarily GS1. They are legitimate UPCs, but the problem is that these UPCs prefixes, which are the first few digits of a UPC number, aren't identifying your company. They're identifying whoever company originally had that UPC and is able to sell it. If you have a legitimate GS1 UPC, the initial identifiers will show your company as the owner. So it is mandatory now. You are able to open items with those non-GS1 UPCs, but what will happen is that eventually Amazon's robot will detect that your item is not, the prefix there is not matching the seller profile, business profile information, and they will suspend the item, the listing, until you fix that issue. And another thing to note is that on Amazon, a lot of the business is done um, as they rely a lot on robots. There is obviously a support section where you can chat, call, write a ticket, but a lot they manage their website with bots. So unfortunately, there are also issues where if you are doing things legitimately, their bot might still flag and suspend. So there are a bit of a resolution process you do have to deal with. So it's just the ecosystem basically how it works there. Um, Now FBA, here's a great tool that I usually recommend people to give a try. What this revenue calculator is, it's also by Amazon, so it is an official Amazon tool. It'll let you see the approximate FBA costs and determine what fees they take based on the listing price you put and the product dimensions, but you don't actually have to use your own product. The benefit is that if you see some other product on Amazon that is like your product that you want to sell, products have a thing called an ASIN number, which you can find in their product details when you go on the listing and scroll down a bit. If you take that number and you put it into that calculator, you will actually get a approximate for that FBA cost, and it will be approximately what that seller is actually paying. It's not perfect, but if it lets you check other people's product and then see what the fees are and what it might cost that person selling it. So when you want to go into the business, you'll know what to expect more or less. It's pretty useful for checking out your competition. Like I said, it's an estimate. It's not perfect, and it does rely on whatever data their system has from that seller for the packaging. But more or less, if it's better than starting an FBA and then finding out the fees when when they start charging you. In this way, you can use that calculator to get an approximate and then make your plan accordingly. Like I said, FBA allows you to send bulk units to an Amazon operated warehouse. The advantage is that their warehouse will have the items, so when the orders come in, they'll ship from there. But you want to make sure that the inventory you send is in careful quantities, because the longer the items stay there, the higher chance that they'll fall into an overstock situation or matured stock situation. And then Amazon starts charging storage fees for having products still in their warehouse that haven't been sold yet. If you do ever run into a situation like that, the benefit is obviously to take the items back. You do pay shipping, but it does beat paying their storage fees if you're sure that the item inventory might not sell as fast as it needs to avoid those fees. So that is a consideration you need to make. And like I said, FBA items are qualify for Prime, so it has an extra visibility impact because customers will see that 2-day delivery option. Now, Vendor Central is something that Amazon has. You might have seen some listings, or if you ever see a listing that says shipped and sold by Amazon.com, that basically means it's a Vendor Central item, because it means that Amazon is the one selling the product, and someone is selling Amazon that product to sell to customers. It's invite only. So the two ways to actually get invited here is that when you're in your category and you're making sales, you either need consistent high growth month over month, or you need high revenue. The high revenue one is obviously a lot harder because they tend to look for millions of dollars of revenue. But if you could show really great growth, there is a possibility they'll still invite you even if your revenue isn't hitting that level, that the threshold that they normally expect for, because they believe that you're a high potential seller, and thus they will invite you on that basis. So one thing that I usually suggest for anyone aiming to get to this level is that if you can post really strong growth for your sales, even if your revenue is not high, you will possibly attract the attention of the vendor central robot, which will flag you, and then a account manager or slash buyer will see, and they can decide to invite you on. The advantage of Vendor Central is that this actually falls into the supplier side of business, where they give you options to do in-network fulfillment, which is where you sell bulk quantities to Amazon. They have direct fulfillment, which is where you drop ship to Amazon customers. So when a customer purchases a ship and sold by Amazon.com product, you're actually shipping, not Amazon, because you're doing direct fulfillment. It was in-network fulfillment. Amazon would ship from their own warehouse. And then even higher than that is direct import, which is where they buy container loads, and then private label opportunities. So Vendor Central partners can also possibly be invited to become private label suppliers. Amazon Basic is the main one that everybody knows about, but different categories have different Amazon brands, but Amazon Basics is their flagship. And then you also get opportunities to participate in various new and beta programs. So two examples I can actually give are in the past in Seller Central, there was a thing called enhanced content, which is where it adds extra details at the bottom. Originally, that was only available to Vendor Central sellers. And then once Amazon got a hang of it for the Vendor Central sellers, they started folding it out to Seller Central sellers. And same for advertising. Amazon Vendor Central has its own advertising system. So what happens is that when you run the ads, those ads specifically run for your Vendor Central. Technically speaking, Vendor Central, Seller Central are on two separate systems. If you are on Seller Central, you will need to decide which one you want to focus on, because you can't necessarily continue competing between your Seller Central items and your Vendor Central items. But what I was saying with the advertising is that Vendor Central advertisers actually had an extra option to advertise with before the Seller Central did, and then a few months later they gave that advertising option to Seller Central. So Vendor Central people, they tend to be a bit like the guinea pigs, but if the program works, you'll be among the first ones to actually get to try it. So that describes the Amazon ecosystem, and like I said, Amazon allows you to different levels of involvement. If you're really focused on your business and you really want to grow the e-commerce, you do have that possibility of becoming a B2B selling to Amazon directly as a vendor. And that one has its own growth pattern, basically, as you can see with the different business development options you have there. Now let's hop into another marketplace, eBay. Also a popular website, but different from Amazon. You'll notice immediately that eBay sells a lot more different products, a lot more extensive than what Amazon has available. Real estate, vehicles. They are very powerful for used products. Amazon does have options for used products too, but it's a lot harder to kind of get the traction for those, though you can list the items that way. eBay, I have found and noticed with customers as well, is that when it comes to eBay, those used products, or it usually comes down to because the product's old or vintage or something like that. eBay does allow an easier search for those products. And it does keep them as separate listings to just make it easier to identify. Amazon, because Amazon's rule is that it's, any item that's the same, has to be in one listing as an offer. It might get lost in all the offers, and the buy box is only whoever wins the buy box. And a buy box is basically if you go to a website and if you click buy, the buy box is whoever you're buying from there. It's usually the person with the lowest price or the highest algorithm. They don't share that information, and if you try to inquire from them, they kind of just give you the best practices. So it is a tricky situation. In fact, there are sellers who have been they listed a product, they're the only ones selling it, but they don't have the buy box. So there are situations like that, but the buy box is basically whoever has that main listing, and when someone clicks buy now, that's the person they're buying from. eBay has something similar, but the way their listings are set up, like I said, it just makes it easier for a lot of people to be able to list the product and have it come up in the search results when people are searching to purchase them. eBay is a bit simpler for creating listings. They don't ask as many questions inside the listings. Obviously, it depends on the category, but they're a lot more. They're more about getting quickly set up, getting the item quickly there, and then just making the sale. They do primarily operate as B2C, though obviously B2B is an option they have. But the extra feature that eBay has, obviously, is their auctions. Amazon doesn't necessarily have auctioning. eBay does, so that's something that eBay is special to eBay as a feature. I have links here to eBay's selling fees. The way eBay charges fees is a bit different than how Amazon does it, but it's flexible. So the fees kind of depend on what you're selling, how you're selling it. They do have accounts, different account levels, but the lowest, the individual account level still lets you do some business. Uh, Depending on how much you want to invest in it. There's a quick start guide. Theirs is a lot simple. It's just basic 4 parts. Explains how to set up the account and get started. And another thing that eBay likes to offer and likes to advertise to customers is that they say that they have seller protections. They give you extra. If something happens where someone's like fraudulent purchase, fraudulent return, they say that you have options to get protections for that. So next on there, after eBay, for eBay, it's a bit shorter because eBay is pretty straightforward. It doesn't really expand largely. They are a marketplace, put simply. Now we're going into the supplier level hybrids here. Walmart is actually interesting because they have a marketplace and they have a supplier accounts. So you are able to get started as a marketplace third-party seller on Walmart. And Walmart's objective essentially is to become competition to Amazon. And in fact, a lot of Amazon customers are also Walmart customers. So they're pretty much challenging each other for the online traffic. So because of that, they're offering almost the same opportunities. But Walmart has a couple of major differences. There are no monthly fees when you become a seller, and when you become a seller, to become a seller, there is an approval process though. So you apply to become a seller, you provide the products, there's an application approval. It doesn't take too long as you have all the information they want. But once you become a seller, no monthly fees. You list the price, you list the price and the listing price, and then Walmart gets the fees from that basis for their marketplace. So there is that initial hurdle, but they're unlike Amazon, no monthly fees. They have products in a lot of categories. The only difference is that their platform is a bit more limited than Amazon at the moment. You saw that Seller Central had all those different tabs and all those different features. Walmart's still working on developing those, but they will still technically advertise your products when they're trying to get customers on the website, when they're advertising their own website. But you don't necessarily have much control over advertising the same way you did on Amazon. But it's technically a simpler process. So if you get on Walmart, it's pretty much put the product, put the cost, maintain the inventory, and then try to develop out your products to continue selling. But a stronger part of Walmart comes down to their supplier, which we'll get to. So the marketplace here, as you can see, this is the dashboard basically. This is what you see. You pretty much can manage items, add items, and there's the feed status. How this works is that you can see, it has the availability which you're putting in. Their platform, like I said, simple, straight to the point, add the products, sell the products. You do need, in the marketplace, you do need to arrange the shipping and there's a referral fee based on the category. So this is pretty straightforward for Walmart's marketplace. Where it gets a bit more detailed is inside of their DSV, dropship vendor, which is where you become a supplier. Here, the way it works is that you provide a wholesale cost to Walmart, and then you list the products on here. You can see the dashboard has a bit more information. It's mostly just added reports and order management. But here you provide an MSRP, but the cost is what you make money off of, because whenever it sells, Walmart's selling it themselves to a customer, and you just ship it, and Walmart pays you that cost price. You manage it's similar logic though. You probably noticed that the marketplace and DSV look almost the same. That's because they are almost the same. There's just a couple of features different. But on the back end is where it mainly differs. Because to become a DSV, the application process takes a bit more time. They need to go up to a buyer, and the buyer will review and decide if they want to bring you on board. And it depends on the categories too. So each category has its own buyer, and the buyers have to decide if they want to, add you on as a DSV. But you're always free to start as a marketplace and then later on apply to become DSV. There's no rule that you apply once and that's done for. You do have the opportunity to always apply afterwards. And the advantage here is that with DSV and any supplier relationship, you always have a buyer to speak with. They're your point of contact. They're the person when it comes to e-commerce, and when you get to that supplier level, buyers are your account representatives in a way. They're your inside man or woman on the retailer side. So how it works is that they will remain in communication with you to ensure that your business is growing. Basically, they have once you become a DSV or a supplier, they have a vested interest in your growth. So you will obviously always have that person to communicate with, and grow your business. So unlike marketplace, you do start building relationships. So that is one way it works. So that's basically how Walmart's marketplace and DSV kind of differ. And that marketplace is similar to Amazon's marketplace, where you're third-party seller. DSV is the level above, extra approval process, but you start selling bulk and wholesale costs. Essentially, moving forward from this point, we're going to have a lot of suppliers pop up, because these are major e-commerce sites, but they don't necessarily have marketplaces. So Home Depot is one of those. They don't have a marketplace per se. They have partners. So if you work with Home Depot for e-commerce, you are one of their suppliers, and they buy wholesale from you. Home Depot offers products in an assortment of categories. Their main ones obviously being home improvement, home decor, building materials, lawn garden, any of those categories. You're able to apply to become a Home Depot seller from their website. What they look for, if you're angling to do business with them, is your product something that's not very represented on their website? Do they have limited sellers for that? So you can research and see. You look up a product, and let's say tiles, stone tiles. You look that up. You're seeing 2, 3, 4 sellers, not that many people. You're looking at their prices and you're saying, well, I have something that can beat that price, or I have something that can compete with that price. You can prepare that information, and when you send it to Home Depot, that's what they look for. They want sellers that will allow their categories to grow and increase the sales, and also give them a competitive advantage. So if you're able to offer something at a better price, they will start taking a look at that to see if they want to bring you on board. What I have here is their IDM portal, which is like kind of the main portal where the product information is handled. When you get in a supplier level, some marketplaces don't have a main platform. They have different kinds of platforms, multiple platforms, depending on what type of thing it is. So they'll have like an order platform, an item platform. It's stuff that you go over once you start onboarding with them. But basically, Home Depot is straightforward, vendor only. But if you are able to offer them something that's competitive, you are able to visit that link and then start the application process. And if they do like it, they'll immediately get in touch with you. So they they are on point, so you don't need to worry about getting lost in the shuffle. If they want it, they'll let you know, and then you can get started from there. And if they have any questions. So now we're going into a couple of not niche per se, because these are popular websites, but they're a bit more narrower in the offerings they have on their sites. HOUZZ is an e-commerce website that provides products and services to customers, and their main focus is home decor, home improvement. So they look for products related to interior designing the house and house products, anything from as you can see in the image, tables, lighting, even building materials. Some materials, decorative materials especially, they're here as well. So that is an option. And another thing that HOUZZ does is that it lets you utilize some of their services to enhance your self-hosting website. So you're able to essentially benefit from their customer traffic, but instead of putting your products on their website, they're on your website, and you're just getting their traffic to come to your website in a way. There are options like that. So these are a bit more niche. They're specific focuses. If you have products that match these categories, these are obviously options you can do with. It doesn't hurt to spread across different marketplaces if you can, just to kind of build, because as you build an online presence on different marketplaces, you can always leverage your more successful one to not only argue getting more benefits from the other ones, but also if you want to become a supplier, you can say, hey, look, I'm on these websites, I'm selling on these websites, my products are doing really well on these websites as a marketplace, so I believe I will be a good supplier. So the next one we have is a unique one in that Etsy specializes in unique products that are mostly vintage, custom, or handmade. Technically, those are products you can sell on other websites, including like eBay, and Amazon does have an option for these kind of products. But Etsy is dedicated to it. Like Etsy's marketplace is specifically these types of products. So the services they give, the platform they give, it's all geared towards these kind of products. So if you're selling anything in this area, Etsy is probably one of the places you'll want to set up in. They do have different types of fees, but as you can see, they do charge an advertising fee. So they actually do advertising they do the advertising, and that advertising helps your products as well. So they do offer that extra on top. You do have to pay a fee when you launch. And then there is an option to get a paid monthly account, which gives you extra features. But if your products are you're looking to sell to people looking for custom, looking for handmade, they want to purchase something and they want some different design stuff done on it, Etsy is pretty much the one you want to set up with first, because they're set up for those type of products. Their entire platform is dedicated to supporting that. You don't need to kind of jury rig information as you might have to do on the other marketplaces. Now, Wayfair is similar to HOUZZ in the sense that they offer products for home, but they're a bit more extensive in that it's not just limited to home, but home decor, furniture, home goods. They do have different products in different categories, but their main focus is in those. And you probably know somebody who has purchased home-related products from Wayfair, because one of the reasons Wayfair has its own customer base, outside of the online customers searching around for a best deal, is because Wayfair offers an added level of customer service that customers like. So they might be willing to pay slightly higher to purchase something on Wayfair because they trust that Wayfair brand will offer them customer service that they won't get else on the other marketplaces. So this is the screenshot of the Wayfair dashboard. Like Amazon's, everything you need is basically pasted here. That performance report actually has more scroll down. So I got that top part, but there's actually a lot more information as you scroll down there. Setting up on Wayfair is there is an application process to become a partner on Wayfair. But once you do get set up there, you sell at wholesale cost to Wayfair, and they don't have fees for product listing and transaction. They're a bit of a hybrid in that it's kind of somewhere in an interesting place between. They're technically a supplier type, but the way it's managed is marketplace style. So supplier is the business style, business model, but the way that your products are listed is kind of marketplace style. So that's an advantage in that it gives you flexibility in, creating your products, creating the content, pricing them. And an added advantage onto that is that Wayfair provides shipping, so you get to use their shipping to sell the products. And Wayfair sellers technically have partner contacts. So you get a person on the Wayfair end who's in that category who can help you with your issues. There are tickets if you have run into support issues, but you essentially get like the Walmart supplier does and Home Depot does. You get a buyer on the Wayfair side who can help. You can speak to growing your business, and you can share your concerns and try to find out more opportunities. They can give you extra data to figure out the marketplace. They can give you like extra marketplace data and help you understand it. So you have that option as well on Wayfair. And something similar to Wayfair is Overstock. Overstock sells similar products as well, home decor and furniture. There are products in other categories that you will find. I mean, they sell in almost every category, but you can see from the screenshot on the tabs that they do have a specific set that they focus on. But what Overstock emphasizes is discounts and promotions. So they're really big on promotional items. You might have closeout items or discontinued items that you want to sell in these categories. Overstock is a great place to do it from. But you don't need you don't. It's not only closeout items. There are people who sell regular products here too, and they'll just run promotions on them to try to get more customers to purchase. And it's something that sells a bit slow. So that is an option as well. Overstock, like I said, is similar to Wayfair in that you do apply to become a partner, and then you get a partner associate who is essentially your contact persons. The way that these work is that, like I said, it's a marketplace supplier hybrid. You control the listings, you control the content, but your partner associate is there to help you out with any other issues, including shipping. And Overstock does have programs where they offer you paid shipping, so like you're able to use their shipping service to ship your goods. That's something that you technically discuss with your partner associate because it comes down to the category, but that is an option you have as well. Now we get to the self-hosting pages. Shopify is a prominent one, of course. Everybody hears about Shopify a lot. Shopify essentially lets you set up a website and then sell from that website. The reason that there's different types of things for building a website, compared to like Wix for Shopify, is that Shopify is built specifically to sell. Whereas Wix, you can like set up a blog or you can set up some kind of informative website without selling and then add plugins later. Shopify has those selling features included from the get-go. So as soon as you set up your account, every template they provide to you is essentially set up in a way to help you sell your products. You do have the power to design the websites, but they give you free templates to start quickly, and the templates you'll have different options for like different types of products. So they do kind of take that into consideration when they give you the templates to choose from. And then they also have a variety of plugins to enhance your website. Some can be free, but they're generally paid services, or they're free, but to get extra features out of it, you have to pay for it. You do have a monthly fee that you're charged, as well as credit card payment fees, because the credit card payment fees are, since Shopify handles the transactions by default, you obviously, for credit card payments, there's obviously a fee for that. But there are plugins to add different transactions if you want, or if you have your own own provider, that is something that you can look into as well. But Shopify essentially lets you self-host. It has a fee to get started, but you build your website, you put the products in there. Everything is under your control. You manage everything in there, and it lets you sell on your own time. Essentially, you're in charge of that business. You don't have other people that you compete with on the site, of course, and you don't have a associate because it is your account. In that regard, there are other options like WooCommerce. That's something that you've probably heard of as well. It is similar in that it offers a service to set up a website, the self-hosted website. The difference is that they have a slightly different type of pricing model. So it's worth checking out WooCommerce and Shopify and see which pricing model works for you and which one which one you want to get started with. If you want something packaged and set up Shopify. If you want a bit more flexibility in your payments because you're looking to scale in a different way, you can look at WooCommerce. I'd recommend just shopping across, looking at the pricing models, and just try to figure out what kind of strategy you want and how these would work for you if you're looking to do self-hosting. And then the last one is BigCommerce. They're actually closer to Shopify than to WooCommerce. And the pricing plans are similar, though they do obviously have slightly different features. But the biggest difference that is noticeable between them is that when you're looking to scale up, the pricing works slightly differently for BigCommerce compared to Shopify. So that's something you can take a look at as well. So my recommendation, if you're looking to self-host, is always take a look at the three options here, or any other options you might find, but these three are the big ones. Take a look at them, see how the pricing plans are set up, see how their features are. Sometimes they'll let you look at the templates as well, so you're free to look at that. They do have free trials as well, so it doesn't hurt to give those a try either. So essentially, you'll want to take a look, figure out which self-hosting that you want to move forward with based on the pricing you like, and then from there, then you would be able to say I'm going to go with this one, and then start moving forward from there. Now, there's a lot of other marketplaces I didn't cover because they're a bit more niche, but they do have online traffic and they do sell. Newegg is primarily electronics and computers. Zulily is clothing, home products, and the way that their site tends to work is that they run like promotional deals during the year, and then during that time range that the promotion runs, you put your products up and then they put that as part of their campaign. So it's not like a traditional marketplace because they run the products during certain promotional periods and you have your products participate in those periods. Tractor Supply Company is home improvement, agriculture, livestock. They're actually pretty prominent for those categories, especially livestock and agriculture. So if you're selling any products in that area, Tractor Supply is worth looking at. Kroger is produce groceries. They're not the only ones, but they do have a direct contact for selling on them. A lot of other grocers are using a program called Range Me, where you have to set up your product and then try to get the buyers to be interested. The sites I put here are the ones you can get in touch with, directly. You don't need to use a third party to try to get in touch with them to become a seller or supplier. Chewy, pet food, pet supplies. Now the last two are not necessarily niche, but they do fit into the international realm. AliExpress is technically their general goods one, where you can sell products as a seller. And then Rakuten is a company. They're based in Japan, and they do have a setup here. They try to change their business model a little bit, where now it's not just a marketplace, but they also run a lot of affiliate programming and promotions to get customers, the traffic visiting their sites to consider purchasing. But they're an option as well. You do need to apply and get approval, but these are all different niche companies depending on the type of categories, and they are, if you do have products in that category, these are worth adding to your portfolio of e-commerce sites that you want to work with any of the models. Now we're going to enter the Q&A, so I'll start with the ones I have here in chat. I see here one from Arthur is Walmart DSV, similar to the small American manufacturers. If you're selling wholesale costs to Walmart, or if you're selling wholesale costs to a retailer, that would be similar because DSV is essentially wholesale to a specific retailer. In this case, it's Walmart. So Walmart buys the products from you, but they have you ship it to their customer. You don't ship it to them, you ship it to their customer. So that's how DSV is set up. It's not the only requirement for Walmart, but that's how they're primarily set up, and anything extra is something that you build up to with the buyers as you move forward with them. Regarding supplier vendor platforms, they don't necessarily have a minimum MOQ level, but the way it works is that they do want you to consistently have inventory. So they have something called a fill rate, which is where they want you to be able to fill orders that come in. And a lot, I mean, they're essentially saying 99.5%, which essentially means like they want you in stock almost all the time. Um, it's not a it's not a do or it's not an issue where it's either you do it or they don't work with you anymore. Obviously, there's just some facts about inventory planning you can't control. I mean, if the shipment comes in, if the carrier, if, you know, you're importing and the ship gets delayed, I mean, it's not in your control. So obviously, because of that, they're not going to go on to you, but they want you to make 99.5% the ideal goal to keep inventory. And like I said, the longer you have inventory available, the more sales you'll have. Because essentially, if you don't have inventory, that's a loss of sales. Because if your product is selling, and the times you're not selling is you're not selling. And when you're not selling, you're also affecting your ranking. The way that these websites work is if someone purchases something, the ranking goes up. If it's in stock to sell, the ranking is maintained. If you get good reviews, the ranking goes up again. And if it's a new item and it's selling really well, your ranking will shoot through the roof because their algorithms compare to past measures. But because your item is no past measure, it's zero, it's brand new. Any sale, any review will immediately launch it up the list for pretty much all the marketplaces. And they do actually have specific tags for those. They'll say new item. They'll say hot item. They have different names for it. Top new items. It depends on what they lose as label, but it's getting started. If you can get that item selling quickly and maintain the inventory for it, you're actually on a pretty good path for maintaining momentum on that website. It'll start selling for itself, and then you can focus on improving your content. You can add extra features like the enhanced contents, getting more reviews. You can work on advertising. You have complete control over that once you do get started. Next question. Different websites on multiple hosting sites. It depends if you mean like different hosting. You can do that, but it kind of depends on what strategy you're going for and what works for you. So I can see that happening if, say, your main business you set up on Shopify, but then let's say you have a smaller business you want to sell, but you don't want to pay that Shopify's monthly fees. Then you decide you want to set up on WooCommerce instead, and then pay their flexible fees, which might come out cheaper than paying that monthly fee. You can do that. Because technically the domains are independent if you're setting up different separate websites that aren't related to each other. And on the internet basis, the domains are the main thing, not who's hosting it per se. So the hosting should be considered as a features and pricing manner. And if you want to have different use different self-hosting sites because you want maybe you're selling something smaller or slower and you want something cheaper, you go with WooCommerce. And then you want your main focus on Shopify because you're making the main focus of that e-commerce product, then you can set that up in Shopify. But there's no issue with doing that. That is a strategy you can use as long as you've done the strategy, you've done the calculation, and you decide it's going to actually work out for you. What method to search for vendors? So obviously the most important one to start searching for vendors is determine what category you're selling in, what type of product you're selling. The reason for that is because while sites like Amazon, eBay, Walmart, sort of Walmart's, they have multiple categories. They do have periods where they kind of specialize in certain products or they want to advertise certain products. And there are certain websites like the ones where I show the niches that have, specific focus on certain categories. You're not limited to, choosing one vendor if you want. I mean, a lot of people do set up on Amazon, put the products there, and then they go apply to become a seller on, like Newegg, and then they'll list their products on Newegg as well as Amazon. That doesn't hurt. One thing that you want to keep in mind is try to keep the pricing similar-ish. If you do need to raise the prices because there's certain fees you have to do, certainly do that. Don't put yourself at a loss. But the problem is that a lot of these websites now have perfected their price matching algorithms. So when you open a similar item on another website, that vendor's system finds that item and then says this item looks like this item, and then they try to price match it, and then or they try to say these are similar items, and they compare their pricing methods on that. So like if you price an item expensive on Amazon and then let's say you do cheaper somewhere else, their system will actually find that item and then look at your price on Amazon and say, wait a minute, this price is too high, and they might actually take you out of the buy box, your own buy box, which is obviously a bit of a nuisance, because if you're the only one selling it, by default it should be your buy box. But because their computer's algorithm is saying, well, you're selling this too high because we found something else that's a lower price than what you have, they will take you out of that buy box. So it is a headache to deal with. But if you do set up the prices separately, and if you set up the prices close to each other, it won't be an issue, and you won't be competing with yourself. That's a big issue, especially if you're going to become a supplier. If you set the prices too differently with the cost, like the wholesale costs, you will run into issues where they will actually start selling below the cost you give them. I know there is like a minimum advertised pricing sort of situation, but when it comes to suppliers, a lot of the vendors don't necessarily make it a priority. They will say they'll only do it for a few weeks, or in Amazon's case, they'll straight up say, we don't do mapping. They'll say we we only focus on first cost. So Amazon is pretty cutthroat, basically. They will adjust their prices aggressively. So if you are going to list products on Amazon, just make sure that you're not doing anything putting the products on another website in a way that will have their system immediately start, messing around with your listing. It is something you will want to take into consideration. What I usually recommend regarding the Amazon is to make it another showcase. Like I said, you can have a self-hosting website where you showcase your products, but feel free to use Amazon to also showcase your products. There's no issue there, because what happens is that having it on Amazon obviously shows that you're growing your business, and you can say, hey, look, this is what it's selling for. I'm doing business here. You can show the reviews. You can show the ranking. Even when the item starts selling, it'll start showing the ranking inside of the category it's in. Top 100 is always great. And actually, you might say, it's kind of hard to get there, but in reality, if you hit the ground running with a product and good pricing, you'll get there pretty quickly. And you do have, like I said, because the algorithm looks at your history of that listing, you do have a bit of time to kind of invest effort into growing your listing before the historic metrics start to kick in and start adding more weight and then slowing down your growth. So you do have that power. Let's see what that's a chat one. So let me look at the Q&A here. Okay, so for baked goods, that's actually an interesting question. I know for the niche ones and the marketplace ones, I actually didn't cover that, but it's because fresh products are something that the e-commerce ecosystem is still trying to pin down properly. It is something that they still have some difficulties with, but two sites that come to mind in regards to foods that I have on this webinar is Amazon has like a pantry option where you can set up to sell food, and they did have it's something I have tested too to kind of see how it worked out. So we ordered cupcakes to the office to see how it would come in from a baker, and it did come in the same day. There was no problem with the shipping. The price was a bit high, of course, but that's just the way it is when it comes to food. But Amazon is still continuing to experiment with selling fresh food. It is worth looking into their website to see if they still keep it open. A lot of times with these beta programs is that they run them and then they stop them and then they run them again. So it's looking at that. And then Walmart Pantry, because they're competing with Amazon, they did introduce that as well. So you are able to look at those two, but outside of those, for the established marketplaces, it's a bit hard. With the way that the pandemic has happened, it might actually come out to be more effective to have your own self-hosted website and then try to get the services set up with those food delivery apps, basically, like Grubhub, Seamless, I believe, is another one. Uber Eats. They it's kind of a alternative option where you set up the products on your website, and then you use another page, another app as like a plugin. As noted here, Etsy, that is also an option as well, because they do have a bit of that unique twist to it. But when it comes to e-commerce, unfortunately, it's just not something they've been able to situate properly. So you are free to test it out on those sites, but the main way most people find the least headache tends to be self-hosting and then using one of those delivery services or setting up with them to arrange to get the baked goods out. That seems to generally be the one. And then you control the packaging in that case. So if it's a fragile item or it needs to be kept fresh in a certain way, you can package it accordingly just to make sure. And then the delivery people will deliver it accordingly. So you don't run into issues like that. For recommended websites to sell for personalizations like embroidery and crafts, obviously, first one immediately is Etsy. They are built around offering those kind of products and allowing people to make custom requests. So they'll be the easiest one to do it with. Self-hosting is another option for that, and then eBay is a bit more flexible. It is to set up those kind of products, but I would, if you want to focus on something, Etsy would probably be the one that you want to place your focus on, because those are pretty much the type of products that Etsy is built around offering as well. And their website is set around that, so you won't have a headache when you're trying to set it up and like it's missing certain information, or another common thing is that you're trying to set up and then it's asking you these weird questions that aren't relevant, and you're trying to figure out what you have to put in there to actually open the item. So shipping and handling, yes, shipping and handling is the biggest financial burden for anyone doing e-commerce. Shipping rates continue to go up year over year. That places a lot of pressure, especially if you're a small business that's not getting prepaid shipping, which is basically where the retailer or the marketplace pays for it. And the size of your item. There's a weird paradox with the shipping as well, where small items that are cheaper will run into a situation where the shipping cost will almost wipe out your margin because it's a low value product, but the lowest shipping cost still kind of squeezes you there. But on the other end, if you get too large or it gets too heavy, you'll suddenly see the shipping price just fly through the roof. So unfortunately, it's just a major issue. And like I said, year over year, prices have been going up. So unfortunately, it's something that has been squeezing small businesses, and companies try to offer small businesses extra features. They try to you can set up like a small business account and maybe they offer you discounts, stuff like that. But unfortunately, those only go to a certain level in helping you do your business. So the best choice for a small business, if you're looking without charging a high shipping that'll affect the customer's decision to purchase from you, Amazon FBA is an option if it's an item that you can focus on, but that's obviously only specific to Amazon. So what else you can do is if you become a supplier, like I said, or if you have products in the category like Wayfair and Overstock does, you can use their shipping, obviously, to send the products. I don't know right now if it's something they still have. Overstock used to have a program actually where you could speak with your partner associate, and they would let you use their Overstock account number, shipping account, third-party account, and then you would be able to use that third-party account to not only ship Overstock orders, but ship off network is what they called it, off network shipping, where you would also be able to use that shipping code to ship to products that are being sold to like Amazon or any of those other marketplaces. Obviously, they ask for information about how much you're selling it for, because to set you up for that. And it did have an advantage because obviously a company like Overstock has such a huge volume of shipping that they get significantly better discounts on shipping. So that was an option they had. I don't know if they still have it anymore, because things have been changing at Overstock, and they haven't really been. It's not something they communicate very openly. But if you have items that you can get started with on Overstock, and you get approved, it's worth running it by them to see if it's something they have. But essentially, when it comes down to shipping and handling, it comes down to a lot of work on your end. You'll essentially want to try to find ways to get shipping discounts. Another option is shipping services. So like these stores or storefronts they have where they offer to ship your products. They tend to get volume discounts as well because they're shipping service. You could try to find one locally who might be able to let you ship through them and use their third party to get a discount. That is an option. But basically, when it comes to shipping and handling, the initiative is on you as the small business owner to try to find ways to alleviate that burden in whatever way possible, either through the marketplaces you work with or through other companies that around your area who might be able to offer you the opportunity to use their shipping third party account number to use their discounted shipping. So it's unfortunately beyond that, it just becomes really difficult. If you enter the vendor level relationship, then you won't need to worry too much about it because at that point your market partner will pay for the shipping. But until that level, it's pretty much a challenge that comes down to trying to find the best ways to alleviate that concern. Other recording. I'm going to pass the questions about the webinar specifically because I believe they'll be sending this over to you guys, so there's no issue for that. So let me look at the chat again. Can you sell travel on eBay? I don't believe I saw that option on eBay. I don't know if they have a lot of services. They tend to still be goods, though goods that Amazon necessarily doesn't have. So you would have to take a look at that, but I don't recall eBay really having many service-sided operations. They're still focused pretty much on goods. And for silver jewelry, like I said, it comes down to essentially, eBay and Etsy is the primary one you should be looking at. A thing to note is that there are actually a lot more vendors out there, but a lot of the relationships are supplier level once you want to dig down into specific categories, because they're not really set up for marketplace yet, and they want to work with a partner that they've approved and gotten the business relationship with. So they want to when they want someone to sell with them, they want you to submit an application to become a vendor. They take your business information, they get your W-9, and then they take your information down and they vet you basically. So right now there's a lot of other categories out there that you can do e-commerce with, but they tend to be heavier on the vendor side simply because the person facilitating that e-commerce just doesn't want to take the risk of setting up a marketplace. So even if they do sell from their website, they want to sell with a partner that has applied through an application process and gotten verified with them, and then it's like regular business development, but business development to sell e-commerce. So those are the types of relationships that have to come up for slightly niche categories. So like jewelry, though Overstock does obviously have jewelry as a category there too, but you can do set up as a supplier with them as well. So those ones are built on that. If you were to sell wholesale, it depends on if we're needing a warehouse. Like I said, a drop ship isn't something I'm going to drill into. Drop shippers usually don't need a big warehouse, or some don't even use a warehouse because they don't even touch the goods because they just arrange it for. But if you're going into the regular e-commerce business, it does help to have somewhere to store the products. Now, you don't really need a warehouse until you start getting into the vendor level, because the vendor level is when they start sending trucks to your location, and you don't want trucks coming to your house. That would just be strange. So if you don't want trucks coming to your house, you will need a warehouse. But before that level, and depending on the size of the goods you're selling, there is no hard rule that says you need an actual warehouse to sell, because you just need to ship from somewhere. So normally, a lot of places they have, like, FedEx and UPS come pick up from them. But if you're able to drop off, or if you can schedule a pickup too. But if you're able to drop off, you can easily, if you have spare space in your house that is won't affect your products in any way. So, like, feel free to store them in the basement, but just note that just make sure that there's nothing there that might damage the product or damage the packaging, like water, for example. So you can start, if it's small enough to store in your home and you're not selling in large quantities. You are able to have products in your house and start from there. There is a bit of legwork you'll do, but there is no hard rule that says you need to start from a warehouse. Warehouses just become required as your business grows, and there are options for that. So you don't necessarily need to go lease a warehouse building. There are service providers out there that let you lease warehouse space. So they'll have racks, and then you'll say, I need, you know, one shelf space or two pallet space, something like that, and they charge you a monthly fee based on how much space your product is taking up in their warehouse. And the added benefit is that they tend to offer not only the storage, but they'll also offer to ship goods, because there'll be a warehouse where carriers like UPS and FedEx will regularly come for pickups. So a lot of these service providers will also offer you the option to have them do the handling of your packages. You'll just need to give them all the instructions as necessary, and send their team those the purchase orders, or when the orders come in on the websites. But they'll pretty much do it for you, and give you that option. So you won't need to go to the warehouse and prepare it for the products to ship, because that service provider will likely have that option too. While you're leasing their space, they'll also give you extra services in pick, pack, and ship. So those are options as well you can find there. Any other questions? I hope I didn't miss anything. Okay. Open questions here related to the session. So yeah. I think that's all the questions. I don't see anything extra here.
No, I think that's all the questions for now. And we're right at the 127 mark. So, okay. Thank you very much, Ahmet, for the presentation. A few questions were asked regarding a copy of today's presentation. A PDF of the presentation will go out in a few minutes to everyone that attended, as well as a video recap of today's presentation will be up hopefully within the next 24 to 48 hours. We'll try to get it up as soon as possible. Sometimes Zoom takes a while to process the video before we're able to edit it and upload it for your viewing. So that will be going out as soon as we're able to get it up. Is there any other questions before we close today? Okay, so I guess that's it. There's no more questions. You're welcome, Brenda. So thanks again to everyone for tuning in to our webinar. This was, I think, part one. Ahmet has two other webinars that will go more in depth in some of these platforms that he spoke about. I think one is coming up on the 23rd. We'll be sending out, or the 22nd, I'm sorry. We'll be sending out an email regarding that. So please feel free, if you want to dive a little bit deeper, to sign up for the webinar. Those are free. And so I guess I look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. Everyone have a good afternoon. Thanks you again, Ahmet.
No problem, and everyone have a good afternoon as well.